Hello everybody, and welcome to Whiz, your family-friendly podcast where we discuss D&D Onslaught, Dice Masters, Heroclix, and the other entertaining games made by Wizkids. I'm WizDad, your access to perplex, outwit, and support, and I will be your guide for navigating the competitive and casual scenes of the Wizkids Triforce of Gaming. It's Heroclix Friday! Today we are talking Pulp format, and about the teams you need to be preparing for if you're playing in the Pulp Tournament at Worlds. Before that, though, we got some pretty interesting modern rotation news that we're going to discuss in the Wizkids Progress Report.
Kowalski, Progress Report.
This week on the Progress Report, we have got the list of what sets are rotating after Worlds. That's right. We've anticipated it. It's probably one of the worst kept secrets in all of Heroclix is what sets are rotating. A lot of speculation. We recently talked about it on the Clickstuff podcast. It's pretty massive. So I'll read the list for you. The following Heroclix releases, including all game elements and maps associated with them, will rotate from Modern Age play as of September 18th, 2023. So that should be the Monday after Wizkids Worlds. The significance is 5-figure boosters. It's going to be Fantastic Four, Spider-Man and Absolute Carnage, House of X, Future Foundation, Wonder Woman 80, Rise and Fall. Those were the ones that everyone assumed was going. But then they added on as well Avengers Fantastic Four Empire, War of the Realms, and Disney Plus. Now there are the Fast Forces packs that go along with that, sure. There are the starter sets, Avengers versus Masters of Evil. One thing they don't have listed on here is there were a couple miniatures games as well. I think there's one for Disney Plus. I think there's one for Empire. Those clearly are gone too. I think that's what they mean by associated, like all game elements. Because they also say including organized gameplay elements and incentives associated with each set. The micro sets are gone, unpainted deep cuts, Fantastic Four, Eternals movies, and the Fantastic Four storyline OP. And then for the convention exclusives, it was surprisingly bare. That's because we're really hitting the 2020 ones, and we did not get many 2020s. You might see some Heroclix figures with the label 2020 or WK20, and those were most likely ones that were released later. Typically, sets have, or I'll say typically, sets are historically have had a 2-year lifespan. In modern, at least seeing 2 worlds is the quote everyone throws out there. That means for convention exclusives, though, it's 3 years. They usually give a little bit more time. In this go around, the only convention exclusives that retired was the tire stack and the barrel. Sure. Galactus should have been in this field. But Galactus, if you remember, was a little bit of an a bit of an oddity. I believe Galactus was originally meant to be a prize figure. There was supposed to be 2 Galacti. One was purchasable, the other was a prize that was supposed to go with the Fantastic Four storyline OP. That didn't happen. COVID happened, and so that kind of threw all of that out into the wind. And so Galactus survives another year. You might think, oh, that's unfair, Alex. Well, I mean, who's really playing Galactus right now? He's 25 points. That's pretty expensive. He gives power, sure. The Elemental Converter isn't bad. He does a lot of good things, but 25 points is a lot in today's day and age. So, but that is the sets that are rotating. The big ones that are changed, that kind of go outside the norm a bit, is Avengers Fantastic Four Empire, War of the Realms, and Disney Plus, because those sets only lived, I believe, less than 2 years. You know, we had Disney Plus last summer, and then right before that in the springtime was War of the Realms. That came out in February, so not spring, end of winter. And then Empire came out around Christmas, December of 2021. So that came out. So that one I could see. I kind of assumed they would go through Empire. War of the Realms, the dark horse of the set, because it's just not a very good set, probably okay. The big one everyone's a little bit more concerned about is Disney Plus. What kind of precedence this sets, because the set is literally a year and 2 months old. But you might be saying, WizDad, I mean, Scarlet Witch and Sarkarian Iron Man are winning everything. Well, thank you, old woman. Yes, that is true. That is likely why they are rotating them. I could go on a long tirade on why I think it's technically bad for the meta for Scarlet Witch to go. She is very oppressive. She wipes dials. If you don't know what she does, she can take a power action, drop a rune. Same with Agatha. They could both drop a rune, and then everyone within 3, just their dials are blank. They don't get to use standard powers. And so that is very oppressive, especially since she became a lot more mobile than people anticipated, thanks to shorter maps, thanks to the Angler, thanks to free TK. Like, she just became way too mobile. But it's one of those, the meta has kind of been built around that. She does provide some benefits to protection against very hard to kill tentpoles like Apocalypse, but she also helps against the 1,000,001 rollouts that we have in there, and that's kind of my main concern. I am perfectly fine. I played Scarlet Witch and Sarkarian Iron Man. I know you're probably thinking, well, that's why WizDad is a big advocate of Avengers, so that's why. No, I'm perfectly fine with them both rotating as Sarkarian Iron Man and Scarlet Witch. I am just concerned about how the meta is going to be afterwards. We lose that and the now very popular All Black the Necro Sword, which takes away Super Senses and Shape Change and means they can't be reduced below 1, something like that. It's going to be interesting. There's going to be a lot of rollouts, which means there's going to be a lot of low-scoring affairs. But real quick, let me run over some key pieces from each set you may not be thinking about that's rotating. We went through this a little bit on the Clicked Off episode that we just recorded with the national champion, Alex Nader. So, Mater, sorry. So definitely go check out that recent Clicked Off episode. But from Fantastic Four, we're losing Franklin Richards. He was probably one of my favorite pick-a-power pieces. We're going to talk about him in the Fishing with WizDad segment. Spoiler! Because we're going to be talking about the Pulp. Spider-Man, Absolute Carnage, losing Mary Jane and Marvella is pretty big, and the Necro Sword. House of X, you don't lose much from House of X. You lose Maggots, that's the big one. Fantastic Four Future Foundation, you lose Molecule Man, that's probably the biggest loss. Wonder Woman 80, we don't even need to touch, but you lose Sky Tyrant and Scarab from the meta, and some other pieces. Chip, Teen Lantern. Rise and Fall, you lose your swap pieces for X-Men, that's huge and definitely needed, but you also lose Emperor Gladiator, which I'm quite sad about. Empire, you lose Destroyer, I think that's it. Yeah, that's pretty much it for War of the Realms. And then Disney Plus, you obviously lose all the equipment in there, which the Cloak is used heavily, Darkhold is used heavily. You lose the Scarlet Witch, Sarkarian Iron Man, and a few other collector. I skipped over Empire. You're probably yelling, hey, did you actually do Empire? Sorry, Empire, you obviously lose Venom Magneto, who I have championed to say is the most undercosted figure in Heroclix, and overpowered, and no one wanted anything to happen to him because everyone loves him. So, take that with what you will. You also lose Thanos. You lose Lockjaw because the Storyline OP event goes away. So, we're left with the oldest set being X of Swords, which I'll say the argument of it being every set gets 2 2 goes at Worlds, well, X of Swords gets 3 because they got last year, they get this year, and they'll get next year. So that's kind of thrown out the window, but I understand that they probably want to keep tarot cards together. Tarot cards as a complete set has only had this upcoming Worlds to be played. Last year we did not have the Storyline OP set legal, so we only had like half the cards, and most of them were just kind of meh. So that's going to do it for the progress report. Let's talk about Pulp and what teams you need to be prepared for, what teams you should be building, what your team needs, as we go into Fishing with WizDad.
Get your gear, little man. We're going fishing. And I mean now.
Going into Worlds, there's a lot you have to prepare for, but because there's so many tournaments. This year, unlike other years, there's almost every tournament you probably want to play in. You have the Pulp tournament, the Pulp format, I should say. You have the theme tournament, there's a Silver Age tournament, there's Team Worlds, and there's singles. And there's, BRs happening, and a X of Swords Storyline OP event. So there's something, like every day, you can't do it all. I know I'm struggling to figure out what I want to play because I don't know which tournaments to play in, and I also don't know how much Onslaught I want to try to fit in there, because the scheduling is really bad to play 2 of them, which, come on, Wizkids. How are you going to promote your game between players? There's a lot of Heroclix players that are interested in Onslaught. But that's not what we're here to talk about today. We're here to talk about Pulp. Pulp is a format I enjoy. I got 4th in one of the 2 tournaments at US Nationals. Probably could have done better if I played a lot better and I actually had practice with the team. I had no games under my belt with the team. I went 3-1. My first one I probably could have won, but I definitely misplayed, positioned very poorly, so that one's on me. If I had more practice, I think I would have done better. So let's talk about what I call the Gauntlet. I attribute it to it being a superhero game, the Infinity Gauntlet, right? And the 6 gems that there are. So what are the 6 main teams your team needs to know how to handle? And it may be teams, it might be themes, it might be figures, but can your team handle this? If not, just know that you have a likelihood of facing one of these gems, one of these teams in the Gauntlet, and your team might fail. So that's what I build the Gauntlet around. Can my team handle these pieces? The first one we'll talk about, very, very clear, is Mr. Sinister. Very much like in Modern, Mr. Sinister, Dr. Moira McTaggart, and, you could play the Scarlet Witch, who does something very similar as well. He is very much a die replacement. He makes the game not fun. Basically, let me read it for you. For those that don't know, he has a Rally Die 1. Plasticity. Once per turn, you may remove one of Mr. Sinister's rally die to replace a die in opposing attack roll with it. So nothing about range. It's map wide. He should only have that if his team rolled a 1, but Dr. Moira McTaggart could take a bonus action. Getting into Onslaught now. Could take a power action to give Mr. Sinister a rally die. And so right off the bat, you're stuck with, okay, one of my attacks, I'm going to have a 1 in it. Super oppressive. He's also not a bad attacker. Typically played at 80, sometimes played at 45. 10 for 3, Pensai running shot. Leadership outwit shape change. And when he uses shape change and succeeds, he can't be attacked this turn. So that's pretty big, right? That flexibility, if you wanted to, you could go 45 points for him and 20 for Moira McTaggart. That's only a 65-point investment to really, really hurt your team. So your team has to know how to handle that. I will say also Scarlet Witch exists. She is very similar to Sinister in that she has basically Rally Die 1 when an opposing character within range and line of fire makes an attack. You may remove Scarlet Witch's Rally Die and replace it. So same thing as Sinister, it's just she has to be within range of line of fire. So she has TK, Outwit, and Prob for 50 points. So you could play the two of them, and just, there you go. She has X-Men keyword as well, so Moira can work on her. So it creates kind of this very, I won't say toxic, but a very negative feeling. And I know a lot of players have felt negative about it because they both exist. Now, luckily, as I just said in the modern rotation, Scarlet Witch and Dr. Moira Taggart will be retiring. So after Worlds, but we're not here to talk about after Worlds. We're here to talk about at Worlds. So that's the first one I would absolutely prepare for. How do you prepare for it? The way I prepare for it is having access to Pulse Wave. Pulse Wave at least gets you through to deal damage. Scarlet Witch takes a little bit of a hit when she takes 2, takes 1. And as far as Mr. Sinister goes, if they're played at 45 points, you definitely want to hit him for 1, because a lot of teams are building him as the leadership on the team, because he is the leadership, and he only has that for 1 click, unless he's being played at 80, which I don't know why someone would play him at 80. So getting in there, getting a Pulse Wave off so you could get him off that leadership, put their team at a disadvantage, because now they don't have leadership, they're down to 3 actions, and you'd be surprised at how much people rely on leadership. Now, there are other people, Scott Crampton, who won both events, played Doctor Strange, the uncommon Doctor Strange, who also has leadership. So that method I was talking about doesn't necessarily work. He also had Misty Knight on there, who's very good as well for 30 points. So can't really... some teams rely on it that way, some teams don't. That leads me to the next piece for the Gauntlet. Now, this piece has typically gone on Sinister teams, but has now become a staple on other teams, and that is Karima. Karima at 75 points, she's the rare from House of X. 75 points, only 6 clicks, but man, are those a 6 click. Like, those are really good 6 clicks. Six clicks. Basically, she doesn't dip below 3 damage at all. When she hits, hit targets can't use stop this turn, and you may use you may choose a standard attack power. She can use that power until she chooses again. So basically, she can choose like something that gives her knockback and just immediately knock back, or she can choose something like Pensai. So she can hit, choose Pensai, and just go through. So she's mostly played to keep out Blue Marvels, who everyone was raving was going to be a she's also good, I should say, for Deathstroke, which we'll get to. She also has traded Energy Shield Deflection. So top click is 11 for 3. She sees through elevation, hindering, and characters. She ignores them, I guess I should say, for targeting. So she is a behemoth for 75 points. You can't really just whittle her down a little bit. Not a lot of pieces in Modern have exploit. Red Widow, I think, is a key one. Could just go through her dial. But being a 20 from range is pretty big. So you have to know your team has to be able to handle someone who could shoot through elevation and through hindering. So stealth isn't going to work. You can't body block either. So she is definitely one of the most powerful pieces in Modern Pulp currently, and one you need to know how to prepare for. Keep her double tokened if possible. Paparazzi are good for this. They can get in there and kind of box her up. She ignores characters for shooting, but that doesn't mean she can shoot out of adjacency. So just do what you can to... I faced at least 3 or 4 of them. I faced 1, 2, at least 2, maybe 3 when I played the team in Nationals, and man, is she annoying. Another team that you want to keep a lookout, we're down to 2, we've done 2. You'll definitely want to take a look at, let's see, do I want to spoil my team? Let's talk about Deathstroke. Let's just go ahead in that way. Deathstroke at 150 or 100 is a menace. He does quite a decent amount of damage. He has access to Pulse Wave. When he uses it and hits 2 or more opposing characters, you can roll d6 and divide the damage equal to the result among all hit characters. That's big. He has access to... He has basically 2 stop clicks. The stop clicks have Mastermind, Toughness, Regen, 3 if you play him at 150. When Deathstroke uses Mastermind, he considers friendly characters within 4 scores as adjacent. So he is kind of what I would call a beefcake. He is meaty. He is a big boy that isn't necessarily easy to take out. And has access to Pulse Wave. So you have to be prepared for him. Everyone in my tournament at Nationals was anticipating him, and no one played him, shockingly. So that's he is definitely on the list of, oh yes, I gotta make sure I have him. Know what to do for him, whether it's try to separate, know how to get through his stop clicks. Gotta have a way to get through those 2 stop clicks. Mastermind is pretty key. So either try to use some energy explosion, because it is only toughness on that click. So he doesn't have invulnerability or invincible to kind of just take hits. You can get through him with some energy explosion. That's not a bad idea. Next on the list, let's talk a little bit about... Let's talk Red Widow. This kind of turned less into teams and more about good figures in general. Red Widow at 45 points is Charge Flurry Stealth, 12 attack, 3 damage, Exploit. She can use Blade's Claw's Fangs once per turn. When she uses it on a 1 or 2 roll, she can make another close attack. And she ignores characters. Incredibly good piece from Avengers Forever, only 45 points. The thing she suffers from a little bit is that if you could get through her stealth, which you can if you have an outwit and just base her, she is kind of frail. She takes 5 clicks to kill her, so you could just shoot her for a little bit and wear her down. But that could be said for a lot of pieces, I guess. So I guess let's talk a little bit more about my Pulp team, because I would consider my version of the Pulp team as one to watch out for, right? Gotta watch out for me. But no, my Pulp team is, I'm playing an unusual, I don't call it unusual, but I am playing a swap team. Surprise! I love swap teams. I love the flexibility of it. In this case, my swap team isn't really swapping a lot. I'm just swapping to the same things. It is technically an Avengers themed team. I am playing Rare, and if you listen to last episode, I think I talked about it. Rare Invisible Woman, Rare Blue Marvel, Rare Party Thor, Rare Falcon, and then I have Ant-Man and Doctor Strange. I swap Invisible Woman using Invisible Woman. Swap Invisible Woman and Ant-Man for Valeria Richards and Franklin Richards. I'm 5 points under with this build. The team has access to 4 Pulse Waves. I will say your team has to know how to handle a Party Thor Pulse Wave. Also, a Party Thor first turn or second turn Pulse Wave. I did it in almost every single match, and it was effective because Party Thor has a 12 attack. He's only going to deal 1 damage because it's Pulse Wave, but when he uses it, all hit characters get an action token. That can severely slow down a team if I'm able to. Their first turn, they wait. I go first, I do whatever perplexes and movement I need to do, and then turn 2, I use Falcon to move Party Thor up. Party Thor then could just move 4 away, so Falcon is not caught in the blast, and he just kind of pulse waves their team for 1 damage and gives them all a token. And hey, if you roll doubles, you'll do an extra damage. That is huge. I do it with the anticipation that Party Thor is going to die, because he could be outwitted. He has shape change and invincible, so they'd have to have multiple outwits, and then they'd have to deal him 6 damage to kill him. And that's a lot of work to do for 50 points. He also has willpower, and if he hits it on a 4 to 6, he heals. So he's actually pretty tanky. He would be probably another piece I would look at into knowing how to handle, because he doesn't dish out a ton of damage because he only has 2 until the end of his second half of his dial, where he has 3 and 4 with close. But I think either for me, in my experience, Party Thor was either just obliterated or he just never died. There wasn't a middle. I never had the opportunity to use his close abilities at all, his second half of the dial. So you got to know how to handle that. You got to know how to handle Falcon. Falcon is unbelievably strong in Pulp because he gives you an 8 range TK essentially. 7, you have to move through their square, whatever. After resolutions, once again, move, action, move. After resolutions, you may choose a standard friendly character that shares a keyword with Falcon that he moved through during this action. If you do, place that character adjacent to him. So he's essentially carrying, but they can then make an action afterwards. He has Avengers and Soldiers, so it is limited. But he does work with, I believe, Deathstroke. He works with Blue Marvel, Party Thor. There's a lot of pieces out there. So your team has to know how to handle that kind of in your face, here's somebody that crossed the map. Because there's not free TKs in Pulp. There are regular TKs. And that's great on small maps. But Falcon just makes it even better. He enables a lot more pieces than a TK does. I have access to TK though, because I do have Doctor Strange and I do have Valeria. I will say access to Valeria and Franklin Richards is awesome. Valeria is low-key one of my favorite pieces in Pulp. 40 points, free, choose a standard attack power. Valeria Richards can use that power this turn, so that can range from Poison, TK, Pulse Wave, Super Strength if you really wanted it. She can use a lot of good powers. And she has a Perplex. Perplex with a range of 8, which, small maps, man, that's half the map. And unique modifier. When Valeria Richards uses Perplex to target another character that shares a keyword, she can increase the value by 2. So she can't use it on herself, but on my team, she can use it on Blue Marvel, because they both share scientists. Her keywords are Fantastic Four, Latvian Scientist. So she can use it on Franklin, she can use it on Blue Marvel. So that's great. Funny enough, I've mentioned this before, Blue Marvel is kind of what I feel like the weakest piece on my team. He has Force Blast, Pulse Wave. If he's targeted by a range attack, heal him 1 click. After resolutions, heal him 1 and remove an action token. But that doesn't matter against Karima, which I get it. That's probably why Karima's... Maybe I feel that way because I went against so many Karimas. So maybe that'll change. But he ended up being my outwit piece. But you will see him. Even at 150, you could see him because I considered playing him at 150 at one point. Hypersonic 11 for 4 is nothing to sneeze at. That's pretty good. So yeah, outside of those pieces, there's obviously Hulk. Hulk is very good from the latest Avengers 60th. You've got some hidden pieces, I think, that you're going to be surprised to see. Don't forget Mary Jane Watson exists. Her popping out paparazzi is a pain. In my game against Josafa, I did not expect to... I did not expect to see Mary Jane Watson use her power to pop out paparazzi 4 times. But it did, because I was just a pulse waving fool at that point, just shooting out a ton of pulse wave. But there's a lot of pieces out here in Pulp that, we haven't really scratched the surface with. There's quite a few, I think, that are good and will get better maybe once, rotation happens. But if you're on the fence about whether you want to play, or if you're on the fence of, I don't play competitive, I might play in Team Worlds, I'm interested in competitive, but modern singles scares me. Which it could. I've been playing for a long time now, and it scares me to this day. I will say, absolutely, once again, try Pulp. It is great. It's not as limiting as you would think. There's a lot of good pieces out there. You can win some games, score some prizing by playing maybe some of your favorite teams. A Scooby-Doo team might work. A Gotham City Underworld team might work with all the ones from Batman Team Up. There's a lot of options out there that you can play with, and it's just going to get better once rotation happens. But There's, I believe, one Pulp tournament on Thursday. I know I will be playing in it. You should play in it as well. So come join me. We'll have a good time. I like playing this type of games because it's a little bit more relaxing. Everyone is not kind of, stress, anxiety up to 10. It's more just like, hey, if I do well in this tournament, that's great. And that's what I try to push for every Heroclix tournament. So yeah, that's gonna do it for Fishing with WizDad and GWiz. I hope you got some info about Pulp, but yeah, next time we'll talk more about Modern, and I hope to see you guys next week. Have a good day.